I am standing alone in my empty apartment holding an engagement ring that will never make it to a wedding day. 3 months ago, I had everything. A beautiful fiancée named Amanda who taught second grade and had the kindest smile I had ever seen. A career as a senior software engineer that I had worked my tail off for. A family I thought would always have my back. But then I discovered the truth about my brother and my fiancée. And the worst part was not the betrayal itself. It was watching my own mother look me in the eyes and tell me to forgive the two people who destroyed my world. Before I tell you how I lost everything and then took it all back, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe because this story about family betrayal will show you exactly when it is time to walk away from people who will never choose you. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. Amanda and I had been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. We met at a charity run in Portland, and I knew within weeks she was the one. She was a second-grade teacher with this incredible patience and warmth that made everyone around her feel safe. We had just started planning our wedding, looking at venues in the suburbs with gardens and string lights, the kind of place where you could imagine growing old with someone. My family loved her. My mom, Linda, would constantly tell me how lucky I was, how Amanda was the perfect daughter-in-law. She would invite Amanda over for Sunday dinners, teach her family recipes, talk about grandchildren like they were already on the way. I remember sitting at the dinner table one evening. My mom had made lasagna. Amanda was laughing at one of my dad's old jokes, and I felt this deep sense of gratitude. I had built something real. Kyle, my younger brother, was going through a rough patch. He had lost his job 2 months earlier, some startup that went under. He was 28, 4 years younger than me, and he had always been the one who struggled a bit more. I had helped him get interviews through my connections in tech, tried to be supportive the way an older brother should. He would come to family dinners looking defeated, and Mom would dote on him, make his favorite dishes, tell him everything would work out. I had just gotten promoted to senior engineer. The raise was significant enough that Amanda and I could finally start looking at houses. We would lie in bed at night, scrolling through listings, talking about which room would be the nursery where we would put the Christmas tree. Everything felt like it was falling into place exactly as it should. Then the small things started. It was a Friday evening in late April. I came home early because a client meeting got canceled. Amanda was on the couch typing on her phone and giggling at something. When I walked in, she jumped, slightly turned her phone face down fast, too fast. I asked who she was texting. She said it was just her friend Rachel from work, some funny meme. I believed her. Why would I not? 2 weeks later, Kyle started showing up at our apartment more often during the day when I was at work. Amanda mentioned it casually over dinner one night. She said Kyle was lonely after his breakup with his girlfriend, that she wanted to help him feel less isolated. I thought it was sweet. I was grateful my fiancé cared enough about my family to spend time with my brother when he needed support. But then I came home unexpectedly one afternoon. I had forgotten an important file and drove back during my lunch break. Kyle's car was parked in front of our building. When Amanda answered the door, her hair was slightly messy, her face flushed. She said Kyle had stopped by to borrow my laptop. I walked into the living room and Kyle was sitting there watching television, scrolling through his phone like nothing was unusual. Everything looked normal. But something felt off in my gut, a whisper I tried to ignore. The signs kept coming. Amanda started being busy more evenings, not answering her phone when I called. She said she had parent-teacher conferences or she was out with friends. When I suggested joining her, she always had a reason why it was not a good idea. Kyle stopped coming to Sunday dinners, always had some excuse about job hunting or feeling tired. One night I hugged Amanda and smelled cologne on her shirt. Not mine. When I asked, she said she had been helping organize classroom supplies and must have brushed against one of the male teachers. It sounded reasonable. I wanted it to be reasonable. The doubt grew into something I could not shake. I started noticing Amanda wore perfume I had never seen her use before. I found a hotel receipt in her purse when looking for my keys. She said a coworker had asked her to hold on to it for expense reports, but I checked the date. It was from a Tuesday when she told me she was at her parents' house. We shared a GPS account for our cars, something we set up for safety. I checked her location history. There was an address downtown, a hotel I recognized. She had been there on a day she said she was visiting her sister. I felt sick. I did not want to believe what my mind was putting together. but I could not stop myself. The following Wednesday, I told my boss I had a family emergency and left work early. I followed Amanda from her school. She drove to a small coffee shop on the east side, the kind of place couples go for privacy. I parked down the street and watched. Kyle was already inside, sitting at a corner table. When Amanda walked in, he stood up and they hugged. Not a friendly hug. Not a family hug. He held her for too long, kissed the top of her head, and she smiled up at him in a way that made my chest feel like it was caving in. Then he took her hand across the table. They sat there like lovers, like I did not exist. My hands shook so badly, I could barely hold the steering wheel. My own brother. The man I had helped supported, loved my entire life. And the woman I was supposed to marry in 4 months. I sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes trying to process what I had just seen. Then I drove to my best friend Marcus's house. Marcus had been my friend since college. He was a lawyer now, sharp and logical, the kind of person who could see through emotion to truth. I told him everything. He did not sugarcoat it. He said I needed proof, real proof, before I confronted anyone. He said people lie when cornered and I needed to protect myself. Amanda had told me she was going on a weekend trip with her girlfriends that coming Friday. I told her I had a work trip to Houston. I did not. I rented a different car, followed her Friday evening. She drove to a hotel outside the city, one of those boutique places that cost $200 a night. Kyle was waiting in the parking lot. I watched him get out of his car when Amanda pulled up. He walked over, put his arm around her waist, and they walked into the hotel together like they had done this 100 times before. I waited 30 minutes. Then I called Marcus and told him to meet me. When he arrived, we walked into that hotel together. I went to the front desk, told them I was worried about my wife, that she had texted me something concerning and was not answering her phone. I said her name was Amanda, gave them her information. The clerk looked uncomfortable but checked. Room 214. I asked if they could do a wellness check. Said I was terrified something was wrong. Marcus stood beside me, calm and professional, backing up my story. The manager agreed, took us upstairs with a security guard. When they opened that door, Amanda and Kyle were in bed together, clothes on the floor, the sheet barely covering them. Amanda screamed. Kyle tried to sit up, started stuttering excuses. I just stood there completely still, staring at the two people who were supposed to love me most. Marcus took photos, recorded a short video as evidence. The hotel staff stepped back, realizing this was not a wellness check, this was a nightmare unfolding. I walked to the bed, took off my engagement ring, and dropped it onto the sheets between them. We are done, both of you. I turned and walked out. Behind me, Amanda was crying, calling my name. Kyle was trying to say something about explaining. I did not stop. I did not look back. Marcus followed me out, put his hand on my shoulder as we walked to the elevator. I could not feel anything. The pain was so big it had numbed everything else. I drove to my mother's house that night. I needed her. I needed someone to tell me I was not losing my mind, that what had just happened was real and horrible and not my fault. I walked in and Mom was in the kitchen making tea. She took one look at my face and knew something catastrophic had occurred. I told her everything. I showed her the photos Marcus had taken. I explained how long I had suspected, how I followed them, what I found. I waited for her anger, her horror, her protective rage on my behalf. Instead, she was quiet. Too quiet. Then she said, "Are you sure? Maybe you misunderstood something." I could not believe what I was hearing. I pointed at the image on my phone, the image of her son and my fiancé in bed together. "Mom, I caught them together. There is no misunderstanding this." She sighed, set down her teacup, and looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. Tired. Almost annoyed. "I know this is hard, Jaden. But Kyle is your brother. Family is family." Those words hit me harder than finding them together had. My own mother looking at proof of my brother's betrayal, and her first instinct was to defend him, not to comfort me, not to rage at what had been done to me. To protect Kyle. 2 days later, Kyle showed up at Mom's house. I was not there, but she told me about it later. He cried, apologized, said he never meant for it to happen, and my mother hugged him, told him everyone makes mistakes, told him it would be okay. When I confronted her about it, she said Kyle is going through a hard time. He lost his job, his girlfriend left him, he was vulnerable. So, That is an excuse to sleep with my fiancé. I could barely control my voice. I'm not excusing it, Jaden. But you need to forgive him. He is your only brother. You two need each other. I started getting phone calls from aunts and uncles, cousins I barely spoke to. They had all heard some version of the story filtered through my mother's perspective. They told me I was being too harsh, that I was tearing the family apart. One aunt actually said Amanda was never right for you anyway, honey. But Kyle is blood. You cannot just throw away blood. I felt like I was going insane, like I had stepped into an alternate reality where the victim was somehow the villain. Then Mom organized what she called a family meeting. She called me, asked me to come to the house, said we needed to heal as a family. I should have known better. But some part of me still hoped she would choose me, would finally see how much this had destroyed me. I walked into that house and saw Kyle sitting on the couch. Amanda was there too, her eyes red from crying. Several relatives sat around the room. My mother stood in the center like she was mediating a business dispute, not the implosion of my life. We are here to heal, she announced. Amanda immediately started crying, apologizing to me, saying she loved me and made a terrible mistake. Kyle joined in tears streaming down his face, saying he was weak and stupid, and it only happened because he was in such a dark place. They sounded rehearsed. They sounded like Mom had coached them. Then my mother looked at me with pleading eyes and said the words that severed everything. Jaden, I think you should forgive them. They made a mistake, but they are truly sorry. It is time to move forward. I stood there, staring at this woman who raised me, who taught me right from wrong, who was now asking me to pretend my brother had not slept with my fiancé. Asking me to forgive for her comfort, not for my healing. Forgive them, my voice came out cold flat. Mom, he slept with my fiancé. She cheated on me with my own brother. For months. I know, honey. But holding grudges will only hurt you. For my sake, for this family's sake, please forgive Kyle. What about my sock? What about what they did to me? She stepped closer, put her hand on my arm. You are the older brother. You have always been stronger. Kyle needs you. He looks up to you. And there it was. The truth underneath everything. Kyle was the baby, the one who needed protecting. I was the strong one, the responsible one, the one who could take the hit and survive. My pain did not matter as much as Kyle's comfort. It never had. I pulled my arm away. You are asking me to forgive the two people who betrayed me most, and you are taking their side. I am not taking sides, Jaden. I love you both equally. No, Mom. You have made your choice very clear. I walked out of that house and never went back. I sat in my apartment that night staring at the ceiling until sunrise. Every message, every call from family members blurred together into the same theme. Forgive Kyle. Be the bigger person. Do not destroy the family. Not one of them asked how I was doing. Not one of them acknowledged that I was the one who had been wronged. At 7 a.m, I called Marcus. I need your help. I am cutting them all off. There was a pause. Then Marcus said, Are you sure? That is your family, man. They stopped being my family when they chose him over me. Marcus helped me plan everything. I was not going to yell or rage or cause drama. I was going to remove myself completely cleanly and let them live with the consequences. First, Amanda, I sent her a formal email terminating our engagement, citing infidelity with documented evidence attached. I requested the return of all gifts I had given her, including the $8,000 engagement ring. When she refused, Marcus sent a letter from his law firm explaining that we could pursue civil action for the return of conditional gifts. The ring arrived by courier 3 days later, along with a 5-page handwritten letter begging for another chance. I did not read it. I tore it up and sold the ring. I donated every cent to a charity for children of divorced families. Kyle tried every avenue to reach me. I blocked his number, his email, all social media. He showed up at my office building one Tuesday afternoon. I had already alerted building security. They escorted him out before he reached my floor. He sent letters to my apartment. I returned them unopened. My mother was the hardest. I called her one final time. Mom, you made your choice. I am making mine. She was crying. You are my son. I love you. But not enough to stand up for me when I needed you most. I went to her house when I knew she would be at work, used my key one last time, and packed up everything I had left there. Childhood photos, old trophies, boxes of memories. I left the key on the kitchen counter with a note that said, "Do not contact me again." Then I blocked her number. I sent one group email to the extended family explaining exactly what happened, what they had asked me to forgive, and my decision to remove myself from any family functions going forward. I blocked everyone who had pressured me. A few relatives reached out privately to say they understood that they would have done the same. Most called me cold-hearted and unforgiving. I did not care anymore. I changed my phone number. Only Marcus had the new one. The first month was brutal. I would wake up and forget for half a second, then remember everything all over again. I threw myself into work, took on extra projects, stayed late every night because going home to an empty apartment felt suffocating. Marcus suggested therapy. I resisted at first, thought it was something I should be able to handle on my own. But I went. My therapist was a woman in her 50s who had seen every kind of family dysfunction imaginable. She did not tell me I was wrong for cutting them off. She said, "You cannot control how they treat you, but you can control how you respond. You chose yourself. That takes courage." By month 3, I started to feel human again. I joined a running club, met people who knew nothing about my past and did not need to. There was something freeing about being around strangers who saw me as just Jaden, not the guy whose family imploded. I met Stephanie at work. She was a new data analyst, 29, sharp and funny in this understated way. We started having coffee breaks together, talking about projects and weekend plans. She knew something had happened because I never mentioned family, but she did not push. When I finally told her the basics months later, she just nodded and said, "That must have been incredibly painful. I am glad you are here now." Around month 9, Marcus mentioned that Kyle and Amanda had broken up. Apparently, Kyle had lost another job and the stress destroyed whatever they had built on my ruins. Amanda moved back to her hometown 2 states away after parents at her school found out about the affair and started requesting their children be moved to different classrooms. My mother had called Marcus several times asking about me, wanting to know if I was okay. Marcus told her I was fine and did not want contact. She asked if there was any chance I would forgive them. Marcus said he did not know. The truth was, I had stopped thinking about forgiveness. I was not angry anymore. I just did not care. They had made their choices, and those choices had consequences. Kyle was living with our mother because he could not afford his own place. Linda's health had declined from stress, high blood pressure, and anxiety. The family whispered about how I had abandoned them, but they also whispered about what Kyle had done, and that whisper was louder. A year after I walked out of that family meeting, I was promoted to engineering manager. I was dating Stephanie, taking things slow and healthy, building something based on honesty instead of assumptions. My apartment downtown had a view of the river, and I had started running marathons. I had friends who showed up when I needed them. I had a life that was mine. Marcus told me Kyle had tried to reach out through him again, wanted to apologize in person. I told Marcus to tell him no. There was nothing Kyle could say that would change anything. The apology was for his guilt, not my healing. Amanda sent an email to my old address that got forwarded to Marcus. She said she understood if I never forgave her, but she wanted me to know she was sorry and that I deserved better. Marcus asked if I wanted to read it. I said no. Her apology did not undo the betrayal. It just made her feel less terrible about herself. My mother left a voicemail on Marcus's phone on my birthday. She was crying, saying she missed me, that she was wrong, that she should have supported me. She said the family was not the same without me. Marcus played it for me. I listened to her voice break and felt nothing but a distant sadness. Not for her, but for who I used to think she was. I did not respond. I am sitting in a coffee shop now with Stephanie. It is a Sunday morning and we have just come back from a run. The sun is coming through the windows, and she is telling me about a trip she wants to take next spring, asking if I would want to go. She pauses mid-sentence, studies my face. "Do you ever regret cutting them off?" I think about it honestly. No. I regret that I had to, but I do not regret choosing myself. She nods, understanding in a way only someone who has been through their own family pain can. That makes sense. I have learned something important in this past year. Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. I can acknowledge that my mother loved me in the way she was capable of that. Kyle probably does feel terrible that Amanda regrets her choices. But none of that means I owe them access to my life. Some bridges need to burn so you stop trying to cross back to places that only hurt you. Family is supposed to protect you. When they betray you, it cuts deeper than any other wound. But when they ask you to pretend that betrayal did not happen, when they minimize your pain for their own comfort, they are betraying you a second time. And you do not have to accept that. You do not have to set yourself on fire to keep people warm who would not even notice you were freezing. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It is survival. It is drawing a line and saying, this is what I will accept, and this is what I will not. It is understanding that love without respect is not really love at all. It is knowing that you cannot heal in the same place that hurt you. Marcus told me last week that my mother asked again if I would ever come back. He asked what I wanted him to say. I told him to tell her the truth, that I am happy, that I have built a life that does not include people who could not stand up for me when it mattered most, that I wish her well but from a distance. I think about the family dinners, the holidays, the traditions I walked away from. Some people would say I gave up too easily, that family is worth fighting for no matter what. But those people have never had to choose between their family and their self-respect. They have never had to look at the people who raised them and realize those people will never truly see them, never choose them, never protect them the way they deserve. Sometimes the family you are born into is not the one you are meant to keep, and that is okay. You are allowed to outgrow people, even people who share your blood. You are allowed to say no to relationships that require you to betray yourself. You are allowed to walk away and build something better. I look out the window at the people walking by, living their own complicated lives with their own impossible choices. Stephanie reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. In this moment, sitting here with someone who knows my whole story and chooses to be here anyway, I feel something I did not think I would feel again. Peace. Not the peace of forgetting what happened, but the peace of knowing I did the right thing for myself. The peace of understanding that their actions were never about my worth. The peace of building a life where I am valued, respected, and protected. I burned every bridge that led back to people who hurt me, and I watched them crash under the weight of their own choices. I did not cause that crash. I just refused to go down with them. Sometimes that is the strongest thing you can do. Not forgive, not forget. Just walk away and refuse to carry their guilt as your burden. So, let me ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between family and yourself? Have you ever walked away from people everyone said you should keep? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button if this story resonated with you. Subscribe for more real stories about standing up for yourself when it matters most. And share this with someone who needs to hear that it is okay to choose themselves. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there realize they are not alone in making impossible choices. Wishing you all the courage to protect your peace no matter who you have to walk away from to find it. Take care.